now time for Bradford and Brooks, a civil discourse about civil affairs in Bardstown, Kentucky, and around the world. Please welcome your host for Bradford and Brooks, Margie Bradford and Jim Brooks. Now, get ready to enjoy a community forum to encourage citizen participation in the political process by the thoughtful discussion of political and civil issues.
Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks here, and Margie Bradford will be with you for the next hour, where we'll be talking politics and just about anything else that tickles our fancy. Isn't that right, Margie?
Absolutely. we like our fancies tickled.
Well, and Margie, we will be continuing our series of interviews with political candidates, all from now all the way through the Wednesday before the election day, or is it the Friday?
Well, it's the Friday before.
Friday before election day.
So we're really schedule tight.
And also, I want to remind our listeners that Sylvia's show at 11 o'clock on Friday, she'll feature an interview that I did with Congressman Brett Guthrie, who was in town yesterday afternoon, and talking about what was going on in Washington that did not involve Senate confirmation hearings. And that, and actually, you know, it's good to hear that there's actually some work going on.
I was just going to ask you, was there anything happening?
You know, it's good to know that there are people doing some work in Washington, besides screaming at one another in front of the television cameras. Anyway, Brett Guthrie's interview will be at 11 o'clock on Friday on Sylvia's show. So tune in then for that. All right. Well, Margie, we're joined in the studio a very special guest, Mr. Todd Harper, who is a candidate for Nelson County Sheriff. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you back again.
Yes.
And always glad to have our candidates in. And, you know, and you might agree with this. I think that I think everybody who runs for office, that's really kind of an education. You know, you learn a lot about not just the county, but putting yourself out there as a candidate too. I mean, it's quite a process, and not you know, you learn a lot about yourself and people too.
You learn a little bit about everything when you're running for office, and especially knocking doors. People will educate you about something that may not have anything to do with the office that you're running for. It may be the motor in their vehicle, it may be their dogs or their grandchildren, or things they want to teach you. And so I enjoy a lot of those conversations, and I've learned a tremendous amount since I filed to run for office, and learn what maybe somewhat not to do's, and maybe what things I need to do better. But it's certainly been a learning experience. Well,
Todd, you've been on the campaign trail for a while now. What in your campaign for sheriff? What are you hearing from people when you're campaigning and events you attend? What are people's concerns? Major concerns?
I always ask people when I knock on their door, when I'm speaking with them, what are their concerns, or if they have any questions for me. And it always comes up, of course, is the Crystal Rogers case and the homicides that have occurred here in the last 5 years, and they want change. They want something different. And so we'll talk about my platform and my plan and what I have in store for Nelson County, the Sheriff's Office, and kind of let them know what I want to do. And but that is their concern. Whether it's they vote for me or not, I don't know. But they do want something different here in Nelson County. They want different leadership, something new, and certainly aren't happy with. And who would be with the last 5 years of the crime that we've had.
Right.
What would you do differently?
Well, I think we've got to step up and put a priority on community involvement and engaging with the community, whether it be social media or using the media itself, radio, TV, newspaper, internet. I want to put out a weekly crime report that educates the community of things that are going on in their neighborhood, so they can maybe assist us in solving that case, or at least educate them, let them know there's somebody out here breaking in their cars or somebody in here breaking in your house. I would like to know that if my neighbor's house was broke into. I would love to know about that. That way I could take proper precautions myself.
Right.
But I'm talking about what would you do procedurally? I mean, that community involvement's one thing.
Right.
But, I mean, you're talking about a different leadership of doing things differently. But what would those differences be?
Well, there's all sorts of changes that I have on my platform that I like to make, and one of those things is bringing in a cold case detective to start over on the Krista Rogers case from the very beginning and see where that takes us and see what other doors may open for us. And I'm not being critical of anybody else that's been involved in that. I'm just saying let's try something else.
You mean try hire another person or get someone who just is dedicated to that, or what?
I want to start off by bringing in somebody from the outside to hire to work that case, someone that hasn't been involved in it to work that case and solely work on that and see where that takes us. I think it's important, and a lot of people in this community, that's their number one concern. I think the county should make it their number one priority, and that's what we need to do.
But I thought that the state police had the lead on that.
They do not have the lead
Not
on
on
the Krista Rogers
They
case.
don't have their lead
They do
on
not.
that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
They refuse to take that case.
Ah,
I think the other unsolved murders, they're the lead agency on the Netherland murders and Jason Ellis's.
Yes. Kentucky State Police do have those other cases. They are the lead investigator on those cases. But in the future, I'd also like to see the Nelson County Sheriff's Office be able to join that cold case task force that they do have, just like we have an agreement on their Greater Hardin County Narcotics Task Force that we're involved with them on. There's no reason why we couldn't come to an agreement to join them in their cold case detective position for the other 4 homicides that's happened here in Nelson County. This happened in our community, and I want to see it at that table. I want to see these things solved, and I want to help in any way that we can. I want to be a part of making that happen.
Well, it's an interesting idea because I know that we have the high-profile cases, but there still remain unsolved murders going back, many years.
Sure.
In the community.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, of course, I know that cable TV sometimes makes a living out of following, bringing cold cases back up, and sometimes it just does take a new, fresh set of eyes to look at, take a new perspective on something.
Yeah, it does. And when I'm talking to people about the last 5 years, obviously that's what's on the forefront of people's minds. But the name Lucinda Strange comes up quite a bit, and 20-something years ago, and I don't know for sure who exactly has that case. I don't know if it's state police, but why not take a look at it? I don't know, maybe they are, I don't know, they don't call me and let me know, but let's take a look at these things, and let's not let these things fall through the cracks, and let's be proactive.
now, I know that you are now a school resource officer.
I am.
Is that okay? That's what other experiences or job skills do you have other than that for being sheriff?
Well, and last February is when I accepted a position as a school resource officer for Louisville Metro Police Department. I'd been with Louisville Metro for 10 years, and prior to going to the schools as a resource officer, I worked as a beat officer in the 3rd Division, which is Valley Station, PRP area, Dixie Highway. I worked as a training officer, and I would train the new recruits that come out of the academy, train them, prepare them to be released as solo officers. Sometimes could take up to 6 months before one is released, and not all of them are ready to be released on the right timetable. But so I worked with that program. Before I ever went to Louisville Metro, of course, I worked for the Nelson County Sheriff's Office, and I worked before that with the Bardstown City Police Department. So
you have some extensive police experience.
19 years of law enforcement, and I enjoy working with people. That's been my greatest interest, joy of being in law enforcement is actually working with people on a day in, day out basis. And so I've certainly enjoyed that part of it.
Well, Todd, I like the idea of a weekly report.
Right.
Because I think that, of course, social media has been a big benefit for those of us who, we hear about it from our neighbors if there's been crimes of opportunity, like during the summer, kids walking by and checking car doors,
Right.
and
Sure.
stealing a purse or whatever. When you become aware that these things are happening either in your neighborhood or nearby, then, it's like, I got to start locking my doors again, because we all kind of get complacent. I remember when I was a kid, we left our keys in our car when I grew up on Maple Hill. We didn't even take
Right.
the keys out of the car. And imagine my surprise one day when I was 19, somebody stole my car. And they're like, and so I think I called the city police, and they said, well, how did they do it? I said, well, I had the keys in it. They're like,
Duh.
duh. But but anyway, we did get it back eventually. But yeah, I mean, you become aware. If you become aware of what's
Right.
going on in your community, then you can take appropriate action.
Well, people are saying, well, we already know who gets arrested for this or that because it's in the newspaper, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this case may not be solved,
Right.
and so we need to use the community to help us solve these. There's over 40,000 people in Nelson County. There's only 20 maybe road deputies. So the people of Nelson County see and hear a whole lot more than we, if I was sheriff, as a sheriff. Can. So we need to rely upon the people of Nelson County if we want to see these things solved. And I want to utilize a community relations deputy because I want to make it a priority to do this. And I want a community relations deputy not just to share crime reports, but positive things like me and Margie were talking about before the radio show. We don't want constant negativity.
Right.
We want to share some positive things as well.
Right. Well, sometimes I think that's not the news that you see in the
Right.
is the positive things that happen other than the people getting arrested. But
Right.
but there's a lot of positive things that happen in any police agency.
Absolutely.
But like they in the news business, they'll say if conflict makes good copy.
Right. Right.
So. But what else is as far as staffing for the sheriff's office, and we spoke briefly beforehand that the sheriff's office, as far as the road patrol, depends on funding from Nelson Fiscal Court from that
Right.
agreement going back almost 20 years.
Right.
And I would say that any additional staffing would require some adjustment of budget somewhere.
Right.
Would you do you have an interest in maybe lobbying fiscal court for additional funding for the road patrol for the deputies that are, because this is a big county.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're in Howardstown and you've got to call in Chaplin,
Right.
and the road patrol, those guys in the sheriff's office, they do a great job of trying not to all be in one spot.
Right.
Because they know that at any given time on any night or day through the
Right.
week, they can have calls in any corner of the county.
Right.
But that can also be tough because you're trying to back each other up as well. So, but it's a big county, and a call from one end of the county to another can really, it's just physical time getting from one place to another.
Absolutely. I think we need to increase the manpower now. I understand that takes money. And that money has to come from somewhere. Now, whether it's a reorganization of redistributing money or however they have their budget set up. But I will always be lobbying for more money and manpower. I wouldn't be doing my due diligence as a sheriff if I wasn't doing that, because especially with the last 5 years, we're not the Nelson County necessarily of the past. We need to put more of a priority on our law enforcement agencies in Nelson County. And I have spoke with other areas about police substations, and New Haven area comes to mind that we could have a location there where deputy sheriffs could make their runs, their calls for service, or be in that area. They have somewhere safe they can be to maybe do reports or just take a break. So they'll be in an area. And it'll be a faster response if they're responding to the south end of the county. Now, I'd like to see that happen in Bloomfield, Boston, other areas like that, but it's going to take time to set those things up.
Okay. Go ahead, Margie.
No, I would just think when you're talking about a police substation, you're just more, you're not setting up another whole department. You're
Right.
just setting up say, a room or,
Right. This would be piggybacking another government town or city. Like,
That
let's
would.
say New Haven says, we have this place right here. We'd love to set you up, and then we could go in there and be set up
but
there.
you'd have somebody staff there to be there all the time.
Not full time, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. This would be when beat cops were out, when deputy sheriffs were out, to have a place to go.
Okay,
It wouldn't be a
yeah.
full time thing, no, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Now, and there are, I guess, with the population in Nelson County, is there an ideal, I'm sure that some crime standards, some agency says, well, if you have this population, you should have this many officers. Is there a number or figure that we should have on the road, like on the road patrol and the sheriff's office covering Nelson County? And I know a lot of times those are wishes,
Right.
that you have enough
Right.
money to do that. But is there an ideal number that you're aware of on the number of deputies for Nelson County?
I looked at those numbers the other day, and I just don't remember what they were. But comparing Bardstown City Police, their budget and the number of officers that they're allotted for compared to the sheriff's office was just night and day. I mean, it just really was. They have so much better staffing and the budget there. But the sheriff's office, the number that we would need would be unrealistic. And I understand that to really get to where a sheriff would want his department, his office to be at. So, but I'm willing to take what I can get type
Right.
of efforts, and I certainly believe we could easily double the size of the sheriff's office as far as patrol goes. So we can make it a priority to focus on traffic issues, investigations, the drug issues, and things of that nature. Easily we could double the size of the department and use everybody successfully and be needed. But I know that's not happening. I'm not being unrealistic. But I will take what we can get, and we just need to prioritize what we're doing out here. And I think certainly informing the community of what we're doing is a priority, and rebuilding that relationship. And the drug epidemic certainly needs some more attention as well.
Well, Todd, I would say probably most of the people you talk to, I mean, we're talking road patrol, we're talking criminal investigations, but the sheriff's office has other important duties as well, including tax collection and court security.
Right.
And so I don't know if you compared the budgets, how all that factors in, but court security, of course, is very important
Yeah.
as well.
Absolutely. There's separate budgets for county patrol and then for the sheriff's office, and a lot of that's set up through the administration of courts and how many bodies you can have, what they need, and all of that. But certainly the sheriff is responsible for the safety of the courthouse, security there, and all the other jobs that fall under the sheriff, tax collection and vehicle inspections and,
that's right.
and carrying concealed permits and
paper service.
and paper service and warrants. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of responsibility that the sheriff is required by law to take care of.
Right, and I would guess typically, though, criminal investigations, that's not necessarily constitutionally, isn't it? Is it part of the sheriff's office?
I was reading something actually this morning about the jobs of the duties of a sheriff, and part of the duties of the sheriff was to patrol the roads of Nelson County, or patrol the roads of the county, which that's never popped out at me before. So people just assume because in Hardin County, they back in the day they never really patrolled. They did the duties of the sheriff, but really patrol and then checking on your places of entertainment was in there as well. So it's the duty of the sheriff to check on maybe the local establishments that are open later at night or whatever the case may be. To me, the Stephen Foster Drama would be a place of entertainment that the sheriff should, I mean, it's in there. That's what it says, places of entertainment, that you should be going around. We should be doing that anyway, just for the community relations part of it. But I think the duties of a sheriff are so broad. There's so much there.
Right.
You mentioned the drug epidemic, and of course that has certainly done a lot in our community. We have a lot to deal with. What changes are you thinking of in that area?
Well, I've spoke with some people, and I just saw yesterday where Louisville Metro was starting a program or taking part of a program where drug addicts can, in lieu of going to jail, can choose to go to rehab. And there's grant money out there for that. There's several different programs. It's not just one program. Some are tailored for maybe smaller areas than the larger areas, but there's grant money there that will allow you to give them the opportunity to get help, because we're clogging up the court system, we're clogging up the jails with drug addicts, and it's not fixing the problem. Now, yes, they need to be willing to get help, but we need, as a sheriff, we need to be able to help facilitate a way for drug addicts to get help, so we can put a stop to them breaking in our cars and our houses and destroying their own lives with drug use.
So-
We need to put a concentration on the drug dealers and be putting them in jail.
Yeah, Congressman Guthrie yesterday said that in looking at legislation to help states deal with this,
Right.
that you have to there's a difference between a criminal who's an addict and an addict whose addiction drives him to criminal behavior.
Correct.
Right,
Absolutely.
there is a difference.
If you put a person out there that hasn't had anything to eat and they're starving to death, they're probably going to Kroger or wherever and steal something to eat, because that's the same thing as a drug addict needing to feed his addiction or her addiction.
Right.
This is, of course, your chance to state your case to the public, and so just tell us in a few words why the voters should choose you over your opponent.
Well, like I said earlier, the voters I speak with want change, and I believe in running a sheriff's office with transparency, and I believe in being open in all that we do. I believe in doing what's right for Nelson County and not necessarily the political answer, whether it be, I think JFK said one time, it's not the Republican answer or the Democratic answer. It should be the right answer, the right thing, and that's what we need to do in Nelson County, and that's the type of leadership that I want to have. I want to place people of integrity in positions of the command staff at the sheriff's office to make sure that we're putting that vision out there to our deputies. This is how we want to proceed. This is our vision, and our vision is to help people. And not everybody may be a fan of the drug addict going to rehab versus jail, but how long have we been sending drug addicts to jail? It's not working.
Right.
It's broke. And yes, we do have some programs here in Nelson County that are helping people in those areas, and I'm for that, and I'm for having community partnerships with those people and those programs. But we need more of them. The more options we have, the better it is. And people say, well, they know how to get help if they need help. Some people don't. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to do it.
No.
And they need help, just like you would help somebody do anything or work on their car. We need to help people to get the help that they need. And I think by doing that as sheriff, I think I've seen numbers, one police department that said their drug-related crimes went down 38% because of this program that they were doing. And I believe it's something we need to take a look at either way.
Yes.
And move forward with it if it's going to work. And because it's a problem in our county, and I'm not waving the white flag in the war against drugs. And I really want to. We've got to step up the fight against the drug dealers in Nelson County. We've had one drug detective in Nelson County for the last 19 years, part of the task force, Great Harwood County Narcotics Task Force. So we've got to do more than that if we want to make a difference in our county. And drugs, I'd say it's probably at least 90% of the crimes that occur in this county are related to drug in some form or fashion. And I believe the county needs to refocus in a different direction, and that's the leadership that I'm wanting to bring to the sheriff's office.
All right.
Well, Todd, if someone wants to find out more about where you stand on issues or needs to contact you, how can they do that?
Contacted on Facebook, Todd Harper for Nelson County Sheriff. I can be contacted on Instagram, Harper #4 Sheriff. Twitter is the same, Harper for Sheriff. I can be contacted by email, harperforsheriff@gmail.com. I can be contacted via phone, 502-249-1645. And I'd be more than happy to meet with anybody. There's times I take time out of my day just to go see one person. And because to me, each individual matters in this election, and I don't want to blow anybody off. I want to be able to reach out to anybody. So anytime anybody has any questions or any concerns or anything, I'll be more than happy to meet with them and to discuss anything they want to discuss.
Okay.
All right. Well, Todd Harper, we've been listening to an interview with Todd Harper, who's the Republican candidate for Nelson County Sheriff, and you bring a considerable resume of experience, varied experience to bear on this as well. So we wish you best of luck on November 6th.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate it.
All right, stay tuned.